Distinguished panelists and dear participants, a very good afternoon and good evening. Welcome to the first Eurasia Dialogue on Russia in South Asia. Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement is an independent, apolitical, and non-partisan think tank which believes in freedom, democracy, and a world free from conflict. We envision a world where sources of insecurity are identified and understood, conflicts are prevented or resolved, and peace is advocated. Russia is one of the major global players, and what I have realized that Russia is a balancer in global politics as well as in South Asia. We have excellent panelists to discuss on this issue in great detail, so I'm not going to comment much on the topic. I'd like to welcome Dr. Sergey Lunev, professor of Moscow State Institute of International Relations, Department of Oriental Studies. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation on today's session. I'd also like to welcome Ambassador P. Stobdan, former Indian ambassador to Kyrgyzstan. Thank you, sir, for your kind presence. I'd also like to welcome Dr. Olga Kharina, Moscow State Institute of International Relations. She holds PhD in political science and is expert in conflict relations in South Asia and India's foreign policy. To conduct today's session, I would like to welcome Viktoria Ivanchenko, analyst at the Russian Foreign Trade Academy and editor at PICREADI. She is also a visiting fellow at NIICE. Her research focus is public diplomacy, media technologies, integration process in Europe and Eurasia, Russia-West Asia relations, post-Soviet space. She was an intern at the Verkhovnova Rada, the Parliament of Ukraine. She also worked at the Higher School of Economics, Moscow, and as a media relations specialist in the charity sphere. Victoria holds Masters in European Studies from the Higher School of Economics, Russia, and Bachelor's in International Relations from the Donetsk National University, Ukraine. She regularly contributes to Russian International Affairs Council, Russia and Global Affairs, rubaltic.ru, lantana.ru, and several think tanks in the media. Victoria, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think you didn't have to talk so much about me. I would like to say that I'm honored to be a moderator of today's session and happy to see everyone who joined us. I think that today we have really esteemed speakers and one of the really interesting professors, experts on South Asia. And it would be a good start for Eurasian Dialogue because what I really see from my own experience is that we lack cooperation and dialogue between Russia and South Asian countries. And as I work in the sphere of communications, public diplomacy, my role here is connecting people, I can say. And I would be I would like to focus that since 2015, Russia has proclaimed its pivot to the east, to Asia. Of course, this pivot is not very quick. First years, it was more about intensification relations with China. But during recent years, I guess since 2017, we have more and more dialogue with South Asian countries, especially India, and I think it will go on. I won't take much time. I would like to give floor to Professor Sergey Lunev. He's one of the leading experts on South Asia in Russia, and I would be happy to give floor to him. Thank you. First of all, I would like you to focus on current relations, on current problems and prospects, and what are the main, let's say, problems, issues we have to deal with now. Thank you, Professor. The floor is yours.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, Miss Moderator. It's such a pleasure to speak to such educated audience, enlightened audience. Thank you very much for giving me the chance to speak. This problem has extremely many different aspects, so it's rather difficult to begin from one of these aspects. Let's begin from the core. the policy of Russia in South Asia. I'll be very brief in speaking about the past times. I think that the policy of the Soviet Union in South Asia was most effective in the second part of the 50s and in the 60s, when the Soviet Union developed very tight relations with India, but also developed the relations with Pakistan and with such countries as Nepal and Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, after the war of 1971, practically the Soviet Union began to look at South Asia almost exclusively through the prism of Indian interests. Cooperation with medium-sized and small countries in the region has essentially ceased. However, the Soviet Union continued to develop economic cooperation with Pakistan, but in almost all conflicts between Pakistan and India, the USSR sided with the latter. The situation has changed little since 1991, except for the initial period of Russian foreign policy. If we speak about the present times, it's necessary to say that Russia still has the main aim is to develop the relations with India, and it pays not so many attention towards Pakistan, Bangladesh, and other countries. We witnessed some kind of the development of Russian-Pakistani times in the end of the last decade, but I'm not so sure that this case will be for a long period of time. I speak about military political cooperation between the Soviet Union and Pakistan. In my opinion, it was just the attempt of Russia to show India its desire for the further development of Indo-American ties. India is extremely important client of Russia in the field of military political relations, and Pakistan will not be able to change India in this sphere. Well, there is some development of the ties. In September 2016, the first ever joint Russian-Pakistani military exercises were held. Moscow agreed to the accession of Pakistan to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The suggestion made by China to access Pakistan and India simultaneously. In my opinion, Delhi was extremely concerned about this situation, and India doesn't accept the arguments of the Russian Federation about the necessity to develop the relations with Pakistan in order to make a war against terrorists. If we speak about the relations of Russia with other countries, we see some kind of economic cooperation, but the level is not very high, in spite of the fact that Russia is constructed the nuclear energy station in Bangladesh. I told you about 50s, 60s as the best period for the effective policy of my country in South Asia. Unfortunately, I don't think that these times will return rather soon. The main priority of Russia is India and China. From this point of view, Russia is interested extremely for some kind of diminishing differences between India and China in South Asia, and India and China are the major actors in the region, of course. From this point of view, Russia will also support the policy of stabilization, normalization of different times between the countries of South Asia, including their ties with external actors. But Russia will not be very active in the region. So I hope I'll have time to return to some aspects of this policy. It was just the preliminary. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I think that, yes, many in Russia hope that Russia will be more active in the Asian, South Asian vector. Now I would like to give floor to Mr. Ambassador, former Indian Ambassador to Kyrgyzstan, Professor Punchok Stobdan. Here I would like to ask him to focus on current trends of Eurasian integration. I think it's a very, let's say, popular topic in Russia to develop cooperation with the Eurasia ocean space and with Greater Eurasia. That means including China, India, South Asian countries, ASEAN, and so on.
Hello.
So please, Professor Stobdan, the floor is yours. You have like 15-20 minutes. So he doesn't hear me. Okay. Probably.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Professor Stobdan. Yeah, it's
Sorry,
okay.
I will be brief right now, and then I'll come back. I have another show at the television.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Nice to see friends from Russia and Professor from Moscow. I'm sure all of you are from Moscow and other cities. Well, I have not been to Russia for last 2 years now, and I'm missing all these places. But sitting in Delhi, how we see Russia towards South Asia, obviously, as Professor Sergey said, that the focus of Russia has changed. We don't see any Russian vision towards South Asia. Russia has some transactional relationship with South Asian countries, but the larger vision is with the East Asia or with the European Union, I suppose. So therefore, there is a strategic retreat in the Russian thinking from South Asia. That is what I see. But at the same time, I think the Russians are engaging bilaterally with specific countries. Professor mentioned about Sri Lanka, Nepal, Pakistan. And we see in South Asia actually does not exist except in geography. You cannot say that South Asian countries are together. Today, even Nepal is very angry with India. So we don't have good relationship with Pakistan. So therefore, there is nothing called like European Union or SHOS. There's nothing called South Asia. South Asia is very, very diverse. So I think we are talking about specific countries, specific situations, specific relationship. And when we look at Russian relationship with our neighboring Pakistan, then we tend to look at our relationship with Russia also through the prism of Pakistan. So this is where I think the more Russia tries to diversify relationship with South Asian countries, India will also diversify its relationship or rationalize its relationship with other countries which are very close to the Russian domain, whether it is in Central Asia, Caucasus, or in Eastern Europe. So I think it's quite natural that after the Soviet Union collapse, both the countries are trying to seek more and more friends and more partners. But even if you're looking at it from the transactional point of view, we really do not see, as you rightly said about Eurasian integration, despite all our efforts, our trade is not going up. Politically, yes, we are still, our core interests are still protected. I don't think India is going to go against the Russian core interest, and I think Russia too understands that. But focusing away from Russia to from India to Pakistan is not just about a relationship; it's about sentiment. The more you transact with Pakistan, it's not about money or it's not about something good to hugging or ceremonial or something like that. The sentiments of 1.3 billion people are today linked with the Russian people. And Russian people, and they love Russia. And under no circumstances, the state-to-state relationship should affect that the sentiment of the people. And this is my concern. We can have bad defense relationship, we can have a bad economic relationship, but that people-to-people relationship, which is so precious, Russia is never, never, ever as can be seen as something negative in our mind. It's very natural. It's in our blood to think good thing about Russia. So what I would say that the more you do military exercise with Pakistan, I have to explain to our Indian friends, look, this is it becomes very difficult for us to just a second. Please, I'll come back in 5 minutes. I'll come back in 5 minutes. I'm tied up. Uh, this is how it. But I think your shift to focus has gone to East Asia. That's another issue that you have reconciled with Russia, which is very important. I mean, we don't say that. So then again, it becomes very difficult for us to explain the partnership with Russia in many ways, especially in terms of security and strategic understanding. And as Professor mentioned, that if you are looking at India through the prism of US-India relationship, let me tell you that never, never, ever India is going to be with United States. India is not looking for any alignment. India is only trying to balancing relationship. We are in a different world now, and we have to manage our relationship with the international community through different formulas. It is not about forming blocks or alliances. If my relationship with China goes bad, I have to balance with United States. If tomorrow my relationship with United States goes very, very bad, then I have to balance my relationship with Russia and China. So this is a pragmatic foreign policy. It's nothing to do with a zero-sum game that we have been used to playing in the past. Today, it is a more of an interdependent relationship, multi-pronged relationship. We have no favorites now. Everybody likes India, and India likes everyone. In between, for example, today we have a very, very bad situation with China at the border. Massive military standoff in the Himalayan border. Now, that doesn't mean that India is the enemy of China or Chinese are enemy of India. No country is hating each other. It's all about national interest. It's all about not letting one country dominating the other regions. So it's simply posturing. It's simply balancing role, balancing game which is going on. Nobody is going to fight war. But that emotional ties that we are used to having relationship built on trust, I think that is world over. This has changed. We cannot. I don't know how much trust you have with China. I hope you have a good trust with China. but internally I scratch Russian. Privately, they have many things to say about China. So the issue of trust is a very, very difficult question, but it's all about managing situation. It's a transactional relationship. It's keeping peace through management rather than having some dreams or some ideology or something like that. So I see that is a big problem, but the main issue with Russia for us was Afghanistan. And here again, I think you have endorsed the Trump administration policy towards Taliban. You have good dealings with Taliban for last couple of years. You have changed your policy even on Afghanistan, where India and Russia used to meet very close. But to us, you are shaking hands with terrorists means that our slogans of terrorists is now completely smashed. We cannot talk about terrorism because our friends are also now friends of terrorists. So for us, it's a very difficult situation. And so far, we haven't actually acknowledged Taliban and other things that may be coming to power in Kabul. Really don't know. With regard to Pakistan, I think Russian relationship with Pakistan has grown. But if the idea is to replace China, I can very well understand. But I do not see that you are willing to occupy some space in Pakistani mind or Pakistani economy or Pakistani something. It would be very limited relationship. You cannot compete with China in Pakistan to change the strategic balance. So it can only be harmful for Russia, spoiling your relationship with India, and in return, the return is very minimal. So it's a very complicated relationship. Economically, I believe now you're committed to spend $8 billion in Pakistan. Then the Chinese have the project there. Then the Pakistanis can never ever give up United States for whatever reason that may be. So I think when we are talking in the geopolitical terms, um, I see more of a loss for Russia rather than gain for Russia. It could be simply for in the sake of diversifying relationship or rationalizing your relationship in South Asian countries. During the Soviet period, you had a presence in Indian Ocean, whether you liked it or not. Today, I do not see Russia coming in a big way. Your north-south transport corridor is not really, it's a half-hearted effort. So Eurasian integration, we've been talking for many years. I've spent my entire life in doing this, but when I see the figures every year, the figures are not moving anywhere. So there is a problem. And it is not just, I think, problem of Russia and India. It's South Asia, but there is a problem of Iran. There is a problem of terrorism. There is a problem of Afghanistan. There's a problem of a whole lot of other issues which come into being. And that is why I think the Eurasian cooperation, we are doing very good with Kazakhstan. We are doing quite good with Uzbekistan. And hopefully one can keep on trying. Somewhere we can meet together in Eurasian integration. Also, Chinese will be meeting somewhere there. But these are in the realm of speculation. So I will join again after some time. I have an interview right now. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Stobdan, are you going to leave us soon or are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still with you. I'll join you in 2 minutes.
Great. Then maybe we will have an opportunity to ask you questions. I would like to give floor now to Olga Kharina from MGIMO. She would like to also add some Chinese factor to the discussion. She's a specialist on the region and especially on relations between countries within the region of South Asia. So Olga, the floor is yours.
Okay,
Victoria,
Yes.
Victoria, may I say just several comments?
Sure, yeah, you can make comments.
Yes, I think that Indian understanding of Russian-Pakistani ties is not extremely right. The problem is that, in my opinion, and maybe in the opinion of other people in Russia, This development of the ties with Pakistan was due only to show Delhi its displeasure with the development of military political Indian American ties. And by the way, a similar certain cooling occurred in Russian-Indian relations in 2007. So it was just the demonstration. And of course, Pakistan is not considered by Moscow as a possible close ally. It's impossible, absolutely impossible. From my point of view, Pakistan is one of the major competitors of Russia in the sphere of the war against Islamic terrorism. You see, Pakistan is one of the most hostile countries towards Russia in this sphere. I understand that civil government of Pakistan has nothing in common with these terrorists, but the Pakistan army, that is the major actor in this country, it has very close ties with Islamic terrorists. And this Islamic terrorism is one of the major danger for Russia itself. Thank you very much, Viktoria, for some comments.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very significant comment. Olga, please join the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, dear experts and guests. It's a great honor for me to broadcast here today. I'm glad to see you all here today. And I've divided my speech into three main parts. Firstly, I would like to say about South Asia as a transitional region from theoretical point of view. Secondly, I'll tell you about China and India struggle in Nepal. I feel it's significant to mention because Nepal is a sandwich state between two giants, India and China. And the third part is about Russian politics and interests in the region. I'll start with the first part. South Asia in whole can be called a transitional region. Leading states, India and China, exhibiting activity and competing for influence. Non-state factors take part in dynamic processes, and the focus is made upon the new interaction level where each participant protects its own interests. And the economic factor has its impact on economic links being formed depending on the advantages of communicating with other states, building up the power. The rival in South Asia is better perceived at the group as forced pairs, while India poses itself as the China rival when fighting for the regional dominance and the international influence. Beijing compares itself with superpowers. The India's capability to make further pretenses for the leading part is given a certain concern to the powerful players on the world stage. India puts at stake its partnership with the neighbors to extend the area of influence that is not easy in the context of rivalry relations with China. If we stick to the concept of hegemony cycles referred to Gilpin, consider the economic factor and inconstancy of the processes taking place in the world, the contemporary regional rivalry may probably overgrow into the future global opposition between China and India. Considering the behavior of the region, other states, it's possible to say that the scenario of following the supposed aggressor mentioned in the thesis entitled The Alliance's Background by Stephen Wald. In the other, at first not to fall a victim, describes this line, the behavior of the majority of Indian neighbors. Small states surrounded by powerful neighbors, as a rule, find themselves in such situation. They are not powerful enough to defend themselves, and probably they are not able to involve other forces to reach the balance. A conflict may take place between both directly competing hegemonies by their allies. It shall lead to changes in the forces ratio, that is, tone shall include the action mechanisms depending on the situation. That's why China and India make every effort to show their influence, spreading for the world to realize that they are powers holding growing economic resources. China increases its costs and rapidly develops economic relations with other countries in the region. That's particularly an important signal for India. The situation in Nepal is a specific example of their struggle for influence. Nepal is the embodiment of small and weak state, which is sandwiched between two powerful states and forced to act as a field of struggle for their influence. I'd like to investigate the causes of the behavior of two major states, as well as the specific geopolitical and economic plight of Nepal. The earthquake in 2015 was a striking example of the diplomatic game in building and quantitatively new relationships between Nepal and China and Nepal and India in the context of the topic of struggle for natural resources, and it has a special place. It concerns pure drinking water and relating with it hydroelectric complex. In this context, it affects the development of India and China competing projects to developing resources in the country. The analysis of different factors allows making a prediction of the development and relations between India and China and helps to assume what kind of conversation will take place in the future. The policy of soft power is equally important because it allows competitors to promote their interest in the region and reflects the real confrontation of interests. China's rapidly expanding its might using both cultural bonds, for example, free courses of Chinese language or educational centers opening, scholarships awarded from the Chinese government and so on, and financial instruments like investments into infrastructure and tourism. For China, Nepal is a part of the project New Silk Road, whose aim is to construct an integration bridge between Asia and Europe. China has become the major foreign investor and importer in Nepal in 2019. After the earthquake of 2015, China was the first delete and restore the country infrastructure. Nepal's example is the consequence of putting into practice the principles of neorealist school. At the same time, Nepal is trying to find the balance in relations with neighbors using the strategic location advantages. And I would like to know that the role of Nepal in the state being the object of the political turf war between India and China, and it shall be growing. Taking into account the neighborhood strategy declared by the Indian authorities, it's extensively using together with the focus upon the economic development, India and Nepal relations shall probably be given a renewed momentum, chiefly in the economic sphere. Today, Nepal's position reduces to search the advantages of cooperation with one or other giant. Competitive relations between India and China shall be creating opportunities to develop hydroelectric power, for example, complex in Nepal. However, if Nepal further remains in stable state, being incapable to confront for the foreign intervention and choose an independent way, it shall be dependent one of the strong neighbors. And for the Russia, I would like to add that Russia, which doesn't have any border with any South Asian state, has always a complex interests in the region, based to a great extent on Russian-Indian relations. As Professor Lunev said, the vector of Russian policy is in the region has traditionally been and remains focused on India. And Russia has always supported Indian relations with Pakistan in their long-standing conflict. And at the same time, Russia plans to increase cooperation with Pakistan without complicating relations with its old partner. Russia sees Pakistan as an important partner in the fight against extremism, violence, organized crime, drug trafficking, and so on. And Russia's constructive multilateral relations with the countries of South Asia, manifestation of the soft diplomacy in the region, has opened gates to its substantial regional influence, allowing Moscow to engage with vital new markets and maintain the role of a pacifying force. The country has a little interest in replacing the role of the US, which is currently faces a dramatic downhill in the regional supremacy. And I would like to add some words about the nature of Sino-Russian relationships. They are quite asymmetrical, considering Beijing's large economic capabilities and pursuit of domestic arms, design and manufacturing. However, as far as Russian national interests are concerned for the time being, Moscow will continue to be keenly interested in boosting its economy with the help of Beijing, while being careful not to become wholly dependent. And I would like to sum up with words that the neorealism still remains actual and for the context of contemporary international relations, taking into consideration this approach, we can't but mention that it provides an opportunity to explain the principal factors having their impact upon states' behavior. Thank you a lot. If you have any questions, please ask me.
Write your questions. I will ask all of them. We already have one question. It is by Abhishek Mohanty. What is Russia's current position on Kashmir issue, especially on amendment of Article 377? So the question.
370, evidently.
Yeah,
Yes.
70.
Yes, 70. You see, Moscow has no official position on this question, so I can speak only from my point of view. In my personal, in my humble opinion, I do not support very greatly these acts made by Indian government. I absolutely sure that Russians shouldn't interfere into internal affairs of India. I can say only my own opinion. The thing is that giving lectures to my students during a long period of time, I always said about wise Indian policy, especially the policy of Bharatiya Janata Party, that never fulfilled three ideas of right right wing. I speak about this article of the Constitution, about Ayodhya and Babur temple, and about Muslim and Sikh legal system. But just last year, everything has changed. I think that's quite understandable why Mr. Modi took such acts. Evidently, the Bharatiya Janata Party is extremely tired about the possibility to solve Kashmir problem. But maybe it's too sharp actions. It's my own opinion. And as for Moscow, Moscow has no straight opinion on this question because it's an internal affair of India and should solve such things.
Thank you. We have another question from Samir Hassin. It is question Russian position on Taliban and Russia's position on India's role in Afghanistan. So,
Well, of course, this role of India in Afghanistan is crucial for Russia, and India and Russia supports practically all acts made by India because Russia and India have absolutely joint approaches to the solve problem of Afghanistan. Unfortunately, this problem happened in my country. This problem will not be solved in next 50 years at least. I am very pessimistic about the situation in Afghanistan. As for Taliban, I should recall our invited audience that when Talibs appeared in Afghanistan in the mid-90s, Russia and India were the only country in the world that tried to resist the attempts of Taliban to conquer the whole Afghanistan. And the United States, for example, supported Talibs in this period. As for now, I know that India is not very grateful to Russia for our role in negotiations with Talibs. But evidently, it's absolutely necessary to speak with people that control at least half of the territory of Afghanistan if we want to keep country. And it's necessary just to join the efforts of all countries because not only there is no difference in the approaches towards Afghanistan. I speak about Russia and India, but the position of the United States and China is very close to this position because practically all the major actors need stable and peaceful Afghanistan. Another thing that I told you, my opinion, it's impossible to solve the foreseen future, but it's necessary to combine the efforts. That's why Russia just applauds all efforts of India. It's economic aid, also economic aid, some military political sphere, and all. But as for the negotiations with Talibs, my own opinion, maybe I'm wrong, but it's absolutely necessary to have the ties with Taliban.
Thank you. We have several questions more. The next question I will ask is was asked by Saloni. It's the question: in what ways can India-Russia ties develop amidst the geopolitical uncertainty in the wake of pandemic? So how pandemic will influence? The question is both to Professor Lunev and Olga, please.
Okay, thank you. Just several words. It's very difficult to speak about the future. Russia and India are very close friends, allies. I would say that these countries are objective partners, absolutely objective partners. But now we see stagnation in Russian-Indian relations, and it was so during the last dozen years. I think it's the subject of special conference in the Russian relations. Between there are many narrow points in all subsystems of bilateral relations: political, economic, military, and culture. Many weak points, and unfortunately, this multi-political alliance between Russia and India is the only major thing. We spoke about nuclear energy, atomic energy, but we see that the situation doesn't deteriorate, but there is practically no successes. For example, last agreements between India and Russia were just the same agreements that were signed by Putin when he was as a prime minister of Russia in 2010, signed and did. It was just the same things, the same thing. And from this point of view, it's absolutely necessary some attempts make our relations really very good. But it's just a special subject, Russian relations. It's necessary to do anything to strengthen our relations, and India is indeed an important partner of Russia, as well as I hope that Russia is a very important partner of India. But it's absolute stagnation in our
Yeah, thank you, Olga. What is your opinion?
Yeah, I totally agree with Professor Lunev. I would like to say that India-Russia relationship continues to be dependent on some diplomatic level and empathy toward each other. Maybe I think that Moscow is driving more toward a deeper partnership with Beijing in this crisis. And India-Russia relationships, I don't know whether the pandemic has declared a competition between China and India in this sympathy. I don't know. But I would like that I would like to add that India will try to extend its influence in the region, but the most vivid part will be touched in India, Russia and China relationship, and this will be deeper than India-Russia relationship.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Olga. We have another question, quite interesting, a political question, I can say. Would Russia seek India's help in getting back to power in relations with the USA? So will Russia have some allies with India, maybe in this way? So please.
well, I don't think that Russia needs Indian help in the relations with India. What we need the development of our relations, further development of our relations, as I told already. As for any aid from India, I don't think it's absolutely necessary. Russian aid is the Western aid, it's absolutely for sure, but not for American, but for European. And our relations with the United States, they are very interesting relations. Maybe it is the history problems that are in these relations, but I'm sure that as India needs no help in the relations with the neighboring country, the only thing that India agreed to take any aid from other countries, it was 1966, the year of Russian diplomacy, when it was Tashkent meeting, when our Prime Minister was again together with the leaders of Pakistan solved the problems of independence. Now it doesn't need any other aid, and it tries to solve bilateral relations and bilateral. The same I can say about Russia. Russia needs not create, but understanding of India in many global problems. And from this point of view, it is maybe the cornerstone of this idea of Russia, India, and China, because the positions of all three countries are very close on the global issues. And even if we take Indo-Chinese relations, a lot of contradictions in the relations, we see that India and China have the same position on tremendous number of so I won't say about health, but just about sector.
Thank you. Olga, do you have something to say about that? About India's support Russia?
I think nothing. I guess it's okay.
Okay.
Yes, yes, and by the way, it's Indian policy of balancing. India is balancing between Russia and the United States, between China and the United States.
Yes.
So it's the continuation of the Indian policy in the bipolar relations. Yeah.
There are also some questions I will choose now. Well, question from Professor of International Politics, Dr. Mahendra Prakash. How does Russia observe India-China current border tension and US step in to mediate it? So please. And please, Professor Lunev, I would ask you to speak up a little bit. Some people say that voice is not clear.
Okay. Olga and I, we spoke about these contradictions between India and China. It's possible to name many contradictions, and the border question is among these problems of bilateral relations. But in my opinion, it is not the major problem between China and you see, you will not find a boundary according to so-called justice. All boundaries they're due to force, and border problems cannot be the major problem between the countries. It is just sometimes catalysator, but sometimes it's just a symbol of the real relations between two countries. If you take, for example, the problem between France and Germany, so-called Alsace-Thuringia problem, this problem is not solved. But do not speak about this problem because the relations between France and Germany are on very high level now, and they don't speak about this border problem. If a lot of people speak about the boundary problem between China and India, it means that something is with bilateral relations. Because the problem of border will always remain. And by the way, in my opinion, the world press exaggerated the situation very much. I remember the Daklam situation when some papers in the United States, Europe, and Russia, they spoke about the possible war between India and China. Nobody put any attention to the words of Shri Narendra Modi, who said during last 40 years, not a single bullet was shot to the boundary between them. So, of course, it's a problem. It's a difficult problem, but it is not a major danger.
Thank you. There is a question referred to Olga. It is. It sounds like, why wasn't Russia able to counter American hegemony in the region? What really went wrong post Cold War?
Okay, yeah. Okay. I would like to say that Russia has always supported China in relations with the United States, and even on the issue of spread the virus COVID-19, Russia supported China and declared US speculation about the origin of the COVID-19. But now it's obvious that rivalry exists between the USA and China, and Russia unfortunately loses in this so-called war due to the lack of the resources for, first of all, economic resources that the USA and China have. So I think that Russia is not so I don't know how to say so strong in this Cold War, as far as I can say.
Thank you. I will take another interesting question: is what is Russia's response towards US effort on Indo-Pacific? We have some discussions on this in Russia. So please, I would like you to answer this question, Mr. Lunev. Russia's response on Indo-Pacific and US efforts on it.
Well, if we speak about Russia reaction to the American policy or towards the concept of Indo-Pacific.
I guess it's about US approach to the Indo-Pacific.
Because if we speak about this concept, rather a new idea appeared only, as far as I remember, in 2007. Russian Foreign Ministry attacked this concept, and this attack was made by the Foreign Affairs himself, Mr. Sergey Lavrov. But in my opinion, he attacked not the concept itself, but the American understanding of this concept. American understanding. From this point of view, the concept itself is rather close to the concept that appeared at my institute, the State Institute of International Relations, about so-called big East Asia that includes not only Northeast Asia and Southeast Asia, but India, Central Asia, and the Asian regions of Russia. About the attention of Russia towards the region itself, it is necessary to say that it's a region of Russian vital national interests if we speak from the objective point of view. From the objective point of view, it's necessary to note that Asian territory accounts for almost 80% of Russian territory and nearly 1/5 of Russian territory. And it is in the Asian part of Russia where the lion's share of its national wealth centers, ranging from timber, fresh water, non-ferrous and rare metals, to oil, gas, gold, diamonds, which also constituted a substantial portion of world heritage. In 2010, Russia officially spoke about the turn towards Asia, towards big East Asia. But unfortunately, I spoke from the objective point of view. But unfortunately, in my opinion, in reality, Russia still, East Asia and Asia is still not in the priority list of Russia's foreign policy. A lot of words were said, but I wouldn't say that a lot was done. And this private to Asia is extremely right strategy, but it's necessary much. If we speak from the point of view of military things, well, according to the naval concept of Russia, both Pacific region, especially, and Indian, or Pacific Ocean and Indian Ocean, are very vital for Russia. It's very interesting, but in our last military doctrine, the major partner of Russia in the Pacific region was called China, and in the Indian Ocean, the major partner was called India. So, summarizing my words, the Indo-Pacific is extremely vital for Russia, but it's absolutely necessary to do much more, because there are more words than this.
Thank you. As we already for 1 hour, I think I will take some last questions. I see a question not connected to the region. It was a question about how Russia managed to stay out of COVID-19, being a neighbor of China. I will answer it because we didn't stay out of COVID-19. We are third highest infected nation, and we still cope with it. But it seems that we go to stabilization, and most cases officially came from Europe to us. Coming back to South Asia, I saw this question about some comments on what Ambassador Stobdan said. Unfortunately, he had to leave us because he takes part in a TV show. He said that US never can replace Russia. Do you agree with it? And which country has stronger ties with Russia these days, China or India? So please.
Well, the question, well, maybe Olga will speak.
Yeah, maybe I invite Olga to contribute. So, which ties are closer with China, or India for Russia? And do you agree that US can never replace Russia for India?
Well, it's a very interesting question because you know that Russia has a very strong bond with India. And I think that now it's the time of the USA to be a close partner of India, because you know that there are a lot of economic relations with India. There are some military bonds between them. So I think the USA may replace the Russian factor in Indian policy making. I also would like to mention that there is an idea of the triangle where is USA, India, and Japan. And another triangle is China, Russia, and Pakistan. There is also such idea. So I think it's more likely to be true. and maybe these relations between USA and Russia and India will continue to just to support India in the struggle in the region with China. And if you know that there are a lot of bonds between China and Russia, and so it may be very interesting to watch how it will increase in the more global struggle between them.
Yeah, I can also add that Russia is cooperating with China on One Belt, One Road, and officially the Eurasian Economic Union as well is a part of this project. So there are some, I can say, quite instance official ties here between our countries.
Yeah. Yes, and if we speak from the economic point of view, yes, China is much more important economic partner of Russia than India. If we take trade, for example, China occupies the first place as among the countries trading with India, and you spoke about this very interesting. 5 years ago, I would say that practically the whole Russian population was very much in favor of the development of the economic ties with China. But I would say that it is not so now, because we see a lot of weak points in the economic cooperation with China. A lot of problems we see there. The same it's possible to say about this Silk Way, because China thinks only about the profits for itself. Unfortunately, Beijing doesn't want to think about close allies. Particularly the whole cooperation with China, it is in the interest of our trade. So you see, have such differences. From the objective point of view, China is much more action. But from the real situation, there are much more concern about the policy of China, not only just economic relations, but we can speak about political relations as well. On the whole, and I would recall about this idea of this triangular Russia, India, and China. Most are extremely vital for Russia. Well, not even Primakov. In the present days, this idea is put by our Prime Minister. The first man who spoke about this idea was Joseph Stalin. It was in 1921. But the idea is very interesting. So those partners are very vital for Russia.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to note that we have been live already more than 1 hour. I guess our speakers are a little bit tired already. So I think it's time to sum up. Probably some speakers have some comments. They are welcome. And we will finish this session. And thanks to everyone who contributed, who asked questions. Thanks to our esteemed speakers. And I think it was a nice and very interesting talk. And also, I think that we should go on our Eurasian dialogue. Nepal Institute for International Cooperation Engagement also thanks everyone. So if no any comments, then we will finish.
I should speak in Nepalese language. Yes. Unfortunately, Ki abhyasna bharera, malani palma balna dhere yarachka. But really, I'm very grateful to the Nepalese Institute for attracting such an interesting.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Luna. Thank you, Olga. Thank you to Ambassador who had to leave us. And thank you, Pramod, for hosting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lord.
Yeah, thank you very much. We enjoyed the conversation.